Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. It's Coffee with Mike, and today I get to sit with a genuine CTO, which is really cool to me because as you guys have known, we've been kind of moving over towards the SaaS world with regards to who we interview. And we still get our other guests, and we will still have them, but I think this is an underserved community that really needs to be heard. They go through just as much as anybody else. I have a couple of friends that are CTOs, and golly, the things that they're pressured with. They are the innovation heroes because everybody else comes to them and goes, all right, we want to do this. So how do we do it? And the CTO is the one that has to go out, figure it out, put the teams together, get all of it's amazing. It's crazy to see what they do. So Asma, thank you for joining us here on Java Chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael, for having me over here.
Absolutely. As always, we like to introduce our guests by having them chat a little bit about themselves, talk about where you're from, how'd you get to where you're at.
Sorry.
The phone. This is one of those things that CTOs can never get away from. And it's totally fine. This is life, right? This is what we do. Where were you from originally? How'd you get to getting into technology? I mean, was it a path? Was it a passion? Was it, talk to us. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So that's a very good question, actually. I mean, you don't talk much about your journey, right? You always get into a situation where you're helping a customer or advising a particular, team member on how to do things. So Michael, my journey started about 28 years ago, right? So I come from India originally. So southern part of India, there's a place called Chennai, which is one of the 4 metropolis for India.
Yeah.
And very much have strong roots growing up and doing schooling, family, everybody there. So, but about 28 years ago, my passion was to come to America, and make things happen. And technology was something I was very fascinated about from day one. And I did my computer science bachelor's degree at Northern Illinois University here in DeKalb, Illinois.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
And graduating, I had about 4 big opportunities coming out of college. And back in those days, computer science students were not dime a dozen like how you have today, right? So we would have had tough choices to pick. So my first opportunity took me out to the Bay Area. So which is the Silicon Valley.
You got to play in Silicon Valley. Nice. Good
exactly. Deal. So so I started my rodeo then. So that was that. And now it's over 25 years of working in the industry, and I don't even know how time flew.
Do you remember what that first job was in San Fran?
My first job was I was a sponge, right?
Sure.
Trying to, looking at work culture, right?
Oh, yeah.
Corporate culture is very different. Back then it was very different. Now it's much more, we have to be correct in so many aspects. Back then it was like unhinged, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you would be pretty much going and experimenting and doing things which you're going to be more passionate about, right? At that time.
Project management back then was a lot more widely open. It wasn't so, we didn't have all the different things that we do now. PM back then was PM. Now you have every different system, the agile system, the other system that's like, oh
exactly.
My gosh.
It was straight out waterfall. That's it.
That was all it was.
It was, and we didn't have project managers back then.
Yeah, no, you just did it as a team, and everybody just kind of took their place and did their thing. Those were the frontier days. So you got to play in the frontier days, and now you move out just a few years after you started. I'm sure things started to change because 28 years ago isn't really that far.
Time just flew, I could say. But
it did.
What we did back then, so back then it was like, hey, there was Unix, mainframe,
Yep. That was pretty
Y2K
much it.
was like 2000, stuff won't work, dams won't, shut down. Those kind of things were all the technology trends back then.
Yep.
Now it was all about digital, cloud, advanced analytics, AI, ML, user experience. All that is the trending technologies of today. But we
Yep.
never thought about it 25 years ago because we
Sure.
were still, tinkering along with the code, right? Trying to figure out things and making sure software is working and all that stuff.
Just so everybody understands some context around this, Azimuth and I are both you're probably a Gen X like me. We come from a generation where back in the day, like 25, 28 years ago, over half the stuff that you guys have today, like you said, we weren't even thinking about it. Tinkering was exactly what we did. It didn't matter whether it was with an engine or code. We were just trying to figure shit out, just to try to figure shit out. We were just trying to see where it would go if we could get it to do something. And some of the greatest innovations actually came out of tinkering, if you will, and a lot of them out of Silicon Valley, which you were there for a while. What were some of the things that you saw during your time there that like started making impacts along the way when it came to what you were doing in IT?
So, I mean, I think the culture of work from home wasn't there at that time.
Oh,
right?
no, not at all. Yeah, it was
Exactly. So that has changed completely. Other thing is more employee empowerment. Back in those days, in the Silicon Valley used to be ahead, right? You used to go to the gym, come back. There were free lunches back then, okay?
You guys were lucky. I still had to go out and I just made my brown bag and I was good.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention a lot of companies are doing that. I mean, my days with Beam Suntory and all that stuff, working with, large, brewing companies and all that, they have different things now, right? Of course, if you can't be always at the bar and working, you have to be at your desk. So things have definitely changed. But what I think the other big impact that was made in the market was the internet that is widely available for everyone. So back in those days, it was all about books stashed up, right? You want to go write code, you would pretty much go to a bookstore, Barnes and Noble, pick up a book, read about the coding aspects of Java in 24 hours, right?
Things like I remember that book, actually. I never read it, but I remember seeing that title. I remember that.
Yeah. And back in those days, you just basically learn and tinker around until you make things happen. It was no other choice. Now, everything is available for you. So internet is readily available. We have forums, we have blogs, we have code snippets available. So the data engineers of today, technologists of today have so much accessibility out there in the World Wide Web that wasn't there 25 years ago, right?
Do you remember when Facebook came out with their own code called FBML?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a friend who is now, he's an entrepreneur, and he actually was in college when I met him. He took Christmas vacation to go read the whole book on FBML and then started doing customized landing business pages for people on Facebook. And I was like, wait, I've seen that book. It's like super thick. You read the whole thing in over Christmas. That's 2 weeks. He goes, yep. I'm like, dude, you either got ADHD and hyperfocus or you just really know how to hunker down. He goes, I figured it was something that was an opportunity. I mean, now he's an investor, entrepreneur, etc. But that just speaks to what you just said. Everything back then was you read it, you messed around with it until it worked or not. And
Correct.
You went on different directions. And now they have all of the suites in coding. Well, a good portion of the suites in coding actually done for you. There's programs that do it for you now. And you're looking at it going, man, life has gotten so much easier than what it used to be. I mean, I learned computer programming when I was in high school. When you and I were both still around the 2C and the TRS-80s.
So Michael, back then there was there was no choice, right? If you're doing computer science, you have to do application data processing or assembly language. All that was part of it. Now the kids are have one in my own family who's graduating this year, and
congratulations.
And she doesn't like coding, but she loves to code. So it's a very different, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, a lot of this has become more commoditized right now.
Oh, yeah.
Back in those days, we did not have offshore concept. We didn't do
Right.
severe offshoring
That's right.
like that, like the ones we're doing now. So everything is pushed out to either India, Vietnam, Latin America,
Yep.
like Costa Rica, Mexico, or whatever. But that wasn't the case then. So it was like we were very fortunate that we were the elite
Yeah.
who, I mean, there were people before us, right? There were people
Sure.
like Steve Jobs and everybody else
Yep.
who rented companies. But we were the product of what they did. And then now things have completely changed. And coming back into dialing back into 2022, my focus is to lead from a CTO advisory standpoint, my clients, and also groom the next generation of leaders that
Yeah.
I work with, either in if they are a data engineer or they are a project manager, doesn't matter, right? I think we need to groom the next generation of leaders, and that's my number one focus. And I think I've been very fortunate to have been associated with several folks who worked with me throughout my 25 years journey, who I've been in touch with, and some of them are great leaders by themselves, right? And some of them I've made a lot of impact on in their career. So
Sure.
that's one of the things that I feel like it's an accomplishment. At the same token, advising the customer and making sure the customer does being a proven, trusted information technology leader, and being part of this Forbes Technology Council and a few other advisory boards like the Dev Network that I
Oh,
just
yeah.
recently got.
These things don't come overnight, by the way, guys. I mean, this is again, you heard 28 years ago. So we're talking about a young guy, hungry, sponging all the information he can, tinkering, trying to figure out stuff. And then all of a sudden, now today he's a CTO 28 years later. There was an evolution in all of that. And of course, back in those days, there were no CTOs either. That wasn't a thing yet. I mean, IT manager, I think, was the only thing that was the biggest thing back then. And that was 25 years ago, not when you started. So what was the progression that you saw from, let's say you just finished with your first one. Where did you start picking up leadership, and where did that start becoming a part of your path?
Fantastic question. I think my progression came when I took up an opportunity as a managing consultant at Accenture about
Oh boy, you worked at
7 years
Accenture.
ago.
Nice. Okay.
And a lot of what I have become today is because of the things that I did at Accenture and I learned with, and the leaders that I was surrounded with. And that's one person that all the credit goes to is my career counselor back then, Stuart Gilchrist.
Nice.
And I'm still in touch with him. I spoke to him about a month ago. He's doing wonders after retirement at Accenture. So still a great guy. And those are the things, when you have one or two of these mentors along the way and you emulate off of them and you pick the right things and you're passionate again, right? About what you want to do. So Accenture had that. And then along comes, after 7 years into Accenture, then I've moved into Computer Science Corporation. And I was there for a long haul. I worked with senior leaders there. And after that, I moved into folks like Jim Petrassi and all that stuff in our Chicago division. So great. Jim is today as a CTO at himself at the Blue Cross Blue Shield, Illinois.
Sweet.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
so when we're talking about you moved into management and leadership, what opened up as the opportunity for CTO? What was the big decision there?
I mean, it was just a organic, evolution that had to happen. So after my Accenture, after my CSC days, I was working under a CIO at GoGo, implementing a large-scale data warehouse for them. And this is when the activity was hot. It was a startup. They were going to go public very soon. And that kind of changed a little bit aspects like, okay, this is what it is to be a CIO. And this is what it is to run an organization where you have marketing, campaigns, your data engineering, you have reporting. All this makes what a startup happen. Right? And that changed. And then I was taken in senior leadership roles at Dell and everywhere else. Now at Dell, there was another individual who is a thought leader in the industry, John Thompson.
Oh, sure.
who has written several books and all that.
Yep.
And he had made an impact on me as well. I was working very closely with him. I reported under him. And the 2 years that I was with before we sold, the company software group sold to TIBCO, a lot of things that you pick up along the way, right? The skills about how to running a business, skills about being a storyteller. CTO is not easy, right?
Mhm.
Being a digital officer, technology officer, or information officer, one the same. It is all about storytelling. How do you tell your customer, this is your challenges, paint the right picture, and advise them to make the right technology shift and changes?
This is very insightful, because I don't think people realize, just because you have the letter C in front of whatever you are, that you can sit in the background all the time. In fact, like even with me, my business partner, who I call my CTO, same story. It's about telling a story. It's about being able to relate to the customer in a manner that they can understand the technology that can be deployed in order to help their business. This is some days back, that wasn't necessarily true. I mean, before CIO even came out, and then the progression has become more and more inclusive of other elements of the business. It's no longer just, well, the CEO is a sales guy, the COO runs the ops, the CTO just does the tech. Nope. Everybody has to know the story. Everybody has to be able to put that out there so that the customer understands that board, that executive team, and that day-to-day team all have the same story. So something straight here, I probably have a solution. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. And then there are several C's again that have propped up in the industry. There's a chief product officer. All right. We never had something called CMO back then.
I know.
So we got chief marketing officer, and there's this chief revenue officer, chief growth officer.
I know.
And all these are like a chief innovation officer, right? And then IT also has changed over the time. IT, because it has become commoditized, because it's more of a OPEX, not a CAPEX, right?
Yeah.
It comes under the revenue officer, it comes under financial officer, it comes under marketing officer. So these guys basically have even more challenges in running the organization, approving the budgets, working with the CTOs, the CIO community, and making sure everything is running seamlessly. So
do you think that's
changed.
do you think that was a positive progression in the fact of a company's evolution and growth? I mean, I've heard the chief growth officer thing, but chief innovation officer, that's definitely a tough one. Chief marketing officer, which was not a big thing only 10 years ago. It started finally getting noticed, and they were usually the first ones that were looked at when it came time to chop. Now that's no longer true now.
It's the other way around now.
Yeah.
The first ones to get chopped are the technology folks.
No.
So that kind of sparks the other question, like, are we pausing the innovation because we give too much power in the hands of non-technology folks in the organization, right? And I'm a very big believer that I understand, there are certain things operationally the company needs to invest on. Technology definitely gives you an edge, right? Whether you are adopting to a cloud services, taking Snowflake as your secret sauce, doing things, all that is fine. But if the rubber hits the road, we have seen many things happen in the industry, including Peloton, where they had let go of so many people recently.
That was nuts.
The decisions are going to be tough, but the innovation has to always be there. And I think the innovation comes from the technology team, and the technology teams need that wing to fly,
Yeah. They need the space to breathe. They need the room to move. They gotta be given some elbow room. When we come back, we're gonna take a short 30-second, guys, be right back. But when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about aspects of mentors and some of the things that he picked up along the way as far as his inspirations and on his journey. Because again, you just heard how the industry changed numerous times over the course of actually, this is just over the last, 8-9 years. All of this has been like full bore freight train running.
We have newer titles now. I mean, we didn't have chief digital officer back then. We had CIO.
Yeah, we had CIO.
CIO has changed into 3 different titles: CTO, CDO, CDAO, meaning Chief Data Analytics Officer.
Oh
And
my
there's another
gosh.
one, Chief
Oh my
Data
gosh.
Officer. Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well, when we come back, we'll talk more about the fun stuff. We'll be back in about 30 seconds.
All right. Sounds good.
And we're back here at Java Chat with Ask Math Pasha, CTO. We were talking about a lot of the changes and things over the beginning portions of his journey. He actually mentioned a couple of his mentors, and we kind of want to go back and digging into some of those things, because everyone's journey, you run into somebody. Could be that one person, could be a few people, or maybe it's that one book or a series of books that finally got you looking at things going, oh, I can do that. That's cool. So this is kind of more what we're talking about with Asmith at this point. He mentioned like he's still in touch with his counselor. That was a career counselor, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What was that like? I mean, you're obviously you're in college, you're looking at everything, and you're on a path, obviously, but I mean, you have this counselor here that's kind of trying to help you figure out what you're going to do. Was it a long-term play where you were constantly talking with them, or was it just one of those things where it's just kind of like, yeah, this is what it's going to be?
I mean, this was well into my 8 years into the in the technology field. So this was about 2005 when I got into Accenture. But the connection that I built with my counselor was over the last 17 years now.
Nice. Nice.
So,
that's awesome.
And definitely we have a lot of gray hairs and stories to tell, right? And a great individual. And in fact, when I caught up with him a month ago, it was like yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We were working together on engagements, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the key things are the ethos, right? What is that ethos that you picked, you made it your own, and you're able to do that and in a much more improvised manner, right? So I will give you the ethos that I have today, and I live by these principles. And based on that, this is what I do when I coach. I'm in several forums. I was a panelist with the DevFest event that happened in 2021 December with a large 1,000+ people.
Sure.
And this is more women in technology. Then I ran a few hackathons in my days at Capgemini, right? So bringing in and empowering people across the globe and trying to use a particular technology and getting that more, splash going on.
That had to have been fun.
That
had to
was
been
fun.
on. You get some interesting characters come into some of those things.
Oh yeah. And they'll be asking, hey, what is the award for getting a great product done? I'm like, okay, our award is, we'll get you a certificate. And it goes towards your appraisal.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So the ethos is basically being a change agent, right? I'm a go-giver. I closely work with senior and executive leadership and C-suite folks today, right? And they always, I'm fortunate to be working with them, and we all have the same battle scars, right?
Sure.
So you have to be that change agent for them. Leadership, of course, that's hands down, right? You have to be motivated. I build top performing cross-cultural teams, investing in growth of the team members, enhancing their roles. Basically, that is the cornerstone in achieving extraordinary results from your team members.
Yes.
Navigate the market, right? The market that we are in, the technology market, changes every month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Not drastically, but it does change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so building in a high energy team, results oriented, creating value added solutions, building, if you're working for a Capgemini, you have to build in that value added IP and accelerators that you can take quickly to the market and tell the customer that, hey, we have done this in the past, and we have a few things in our arsenal that we can, move that needle much more for you. So those kind of things. Forging the key business relationship and partnership across the product portfolio, and at least get 25% top line results, right? And then the other two that comes into my mind is persona, right? Balance and detail, be detail oriented, and constantly have that learner mindset, right? For example, a couple of books that I read, which kind of helped me really in the last 2, 3 months, was more of the originals from Adam Grant.
Okay.
Adam Grant is fantastic. I read about the whole Warby Parker use case, how they became what they became, and it's interesting. It opens up ideas, entrepreneurial, you know,
I'm
and
gonna have to go find that book now. We'll need the title.
yeah,
We'll
I'll
get
send it
that
to
link
you
down there for
on
everybody
Amazon.
too, who's listening. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one was multipliers. This is like, if you have limited resources given to you, how do you have the multiplier effect? How do you scale it up? And this has been always a challenge in my career, where I would have less budget to play with, less team members, and how to evolve them and take them to the next level. So that personas we talked about, basically constant learner mindset, reading books. There are several areas where you can literally go and educate yourself quickly. LinkedIn has fantastic learner series,
I've been
right?
going through some of those. Those are fun.
Yeah,
They're actually really well done. I was very impressed. When they first came out, it was kind of like, they got the
yeah.
basics, but now they're starting
But
to come
now
up with
it's more
some really good.
intense.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's gotten a lot more intense. I'm actually on one of the learning paths now, not even in what I do, which is marketing. And because I just want to understand things better.
So there you go, Michael. You have a constant learner mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, some days I wonder why I keep doing that to myself, but it's really, how do I say this? Having the learner mindset to constantly improve self improves me for the next person, whether that's a colleague, a client, or a stranger. It doesn't matter. You mentioned the go-giver mentality. Read that book when it first came out. I mean, everybody was going nuts over it anyway. I was like, okay, let's go read it. They say it's a short read, and that's probably one of the most impactful books I've read ever. Simply because it, if you think about it, most theologies promote that kind of attitude. How do you help your fellow man? What can you do to help them improve? What can you do to inspire them to do better? This is one of the reasons that I did Java Chat, is because there are people like yourself, and there are other guests that I've had. They want to go out and they want to help people. Yeah, there's business to be done. Okay. But their stories, their knowledge, their ethos is out there to help other people improve. And that's really the point of being who we are as humans. Highlights and lowlights, we all have them. But when we're able to stand there and literally give from a smile to an actual piece of advice, and change someone's whole perspective on a day, a week, a month, a year. Like recently, one of my friends just kind of went through a rough emotional time. And literally all it was, man, I love you. You're my best friend. Also, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And he's like, that's the reason why I call you, because I know you won't. I'm like, all right, well, here it comes. Kapow. And yeah, it brings out certain emotions. But at the same time, it keeps them clear, which is something that you have to do, both with your clients, your teams, and anybody else that's your colleagues. This is what I'm hearing. It's, what's the term? It's imperative that we're this way, constantly learning, constantly improving, constantly looking to see where we can serve others.
Right. And then one big one is that being a thought leader, right?
Oh, yeah.
25 years, you just don't wake up and you become a thought leader. You have learned the trade, stuff, you keep abreast of the technology, you go to the events, you do podcasts such as this, you've been a storyteller, improvise, a lot of communication. Leadership requires you to be very succinct with what you present, and be on target with your presentation. Contribute in whichever way, writing white papers, articles. I'm also contemplating writing a book now in the next year. Yeah, so that's one.
You'll need to come back then, so we can talk about the book, because that's going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's still under covers, but definitely. So I have about 10 plus publications in the last 2 years, right? Nice. And I've been a panelist, as I mentioned, with the DevFest events. I'm also now part of the Dev Network, And then I got inducted into the Innovative Executive League, which is part of Chicago's Leadership Circle on the
Nice.
technology side, which all didn't happen overnight. Again,
Mhm.
going back to our journey, this is the ethos I talk about: change agent, being leader, thought leadership, navigate the market, and have the personas around you. So these are the 5 things. If you do it right, I think everybody is a leader in their own way. But I think we can use this across multiple industries.
I would absolutely agree. I had a thought run across my head as you were talking about this. A lot of times when someone's just getting started in technology,
Mhm.
I've noticed there's a good portion of them that are somewhat socially awkward, and thinking of how they're going to advance from where they're at, because they're either an introvert or an extroverted introvert, makes it difficult for them to really shine in a manner that they're comfortable with. How do you help somebody like that to begin to see you don't have to be the entertainer of the world,
Mhm.
but you will need to evolve into something more? Because I'm sure when you first started as a sponge, you probably didn't talk much. Today, here you are coaching people, talking with other people, helping clients, and explaining and storytelling. What can you share with these younger ones? Because we do have a demographic between 18 and 30 that do listen to this as well. What can you tell them to help with
In my home, Michael.
that?
So this is, some things you can, it's a textbook, some things it's inbuilt. So I think I was fortunate that, I came from a family of doctors. My dad's a heart surgeon, my mom's an anesthetic surgeon. And so we have mixture of both traits, right? Introvert and extrovert, right? Depending upon how you call it. I mean, typically physicians are very subdued,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And coming from there, you had the opposite effect, right? So and I think maybe that's what happened to me over time. Looking at my dad being he's very one of these. I think he's one of the sharpest heart surgeons in the world that I've known
Nice.
and I know of. And he's still today. He teaches and everything, but he's he has his own. He's mellowed. He has his own pace, and that's him. So with myself, I think one of the things that I want to tell to the younger generation is participate, be aware of what's going on. Use LinkedIn has many facets to it. You can always participate in those groups, focus groups,
Yep.
grow your network. It's all about networking.
Yep.
And then be part of an organization, start writing things, read things, attend to these panel discussions and all that, and that's how you will emulate that. Now the other challenge is that's one aspect of positive behavior setting, right? The other one is the younger generation is also a challenge because they have social media in a different direction: the Facebook, the Instagram, the Pinterest, the Twitters, and all that stuff. And you can use it whichever way you want, right? And that I think is great to an extent. But when it comes to the industry, when it comes to rubber hits the road and you got to get serious, you have to start working.
Yep.
You got to be the big league.
Yep.
Then you need to focus on that LinkedIn aspects or anything else that is out there, forums, right? Twitter, or write things out and share things which are going to be meaningful and where you can make positive impact, right? And I think that is my 2 cents to the younger generation. But in technology side, you have cloud, you got AI, ML, you got data engineering, you got full stack development. There's several next gen technologies like Data Hub. Government is also doing several things around data, right? All that, there's plenty to do. Cybersecurity is huge.
Oh, that's insanely huge.
Yep.
So when you mentioned Accenture, I was just kind of like, oh, you got to play with them, huh? Nice. They're one of the, as of late, they've become one of the cybersecurity veins, if you will. You can literally get You can literally get DHS clearance through them now.
Wow.
Which yeah, I had no idea they were even playing in that space. But hey, you know, when you're big enough, eventually.
But we were doing that already. My team and myself at Unisys, back about 5
Oh
years
yeah,
after the Dell thing, we had a cybersecurity team, which we were having a bigger, government contracts from IRS,
Yep.
Homeland Security. So I mean, it was surprising when I joined the organization. I was like, I didn't know about that many, all the people, goods coming into the country is all being monitored through the infrastructure and everything that is hosted by Unisys for the
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
So that was a cool thing. And there was several security aspects that Unisys was already doing that.
Yeah.
This about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure with all the breaches that we have had with blockchain, you know, what's happening with the crypto market, there's a lot of renewed focus on the security. And I think it's just going to get even bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Oh, sure. It's going to be a continuously expanding vertical, if you will, and it's going to diversify in a million different ways. I've already, just knowing that, like there's been a lot of chatter around MetaMask starting to do certain things that a lot of their users said, well, hold on a second, you guys are supposed to be this, but you're starting to look like that. We're not cool with this. And it's like, who's the next one? The moment I see chatter like that, I'm already looking for who's going to come in with the next solution, because that immediately presents a problem of, we don't like, we want what we like. Somebody's going to come out and go, I know what you like. And whoever that is going to get insanely rich.
And there were companies, and there are companies that I've seen, have been affiliated with too, where we sit and we look at the wave and see the other guy ride it and then say, the wave now is the new norm. Let's invest in that. And then what happens? You become a laggard and you're behind, and pretty much the early mover advantage is gone. So one of the things that I, as a in whatever capacity, I tell to my customers and my clients is, jump on the technology. What is the risk of not going on and trying something new versus, you know?
Oh, I need you in my company, Jesus. we have a couple of new tools that are AI based, and they work provided you use them properly, like anything else. But explaining the technology to somebody who's not a tech savvy person and how it can actually advantage them, it gets tough because it sounds too good to be true in a lot of cases. I mean, especially with a lot of the new technologies coming out, people are looking at that going, nah, I can't do that. Well, here's some case studies it did. There it is. And it's one of those things where everybody gets a little frustrated because it's like, the business owner wants to do something. Here's this great new thing sitting in front of them. They don't get it. And it's like,
but you know, coming off of COVID, you also understand. I mean, we're still, we still don't know if you're really off of COVID yet, right?
Yeah, true.
That it's still that 100-pound gorilla which is sitting behind us, and not sure whether it'll come back again in front of us. So, I mean, you know, it's what it is, right? But you have to look at the trend. The trend is, in the last 2 years, a lot of these companies went on to the cloud, right?
Yeah.
They knew data center is done. We have to invest on cloud-based SaaS platforms and technology. And we've seen that now coming off the cloud or coming off the COVID, we are looking at, okay, let's dig deep. Okay, we invested in the right technology. Have we got the ROI from that investment?
Yeah.
Right? Have we generated that value? And that's what I try to do a bit unique. I want to bring that transformation leadership, right? Whether it is being in innovating digital technologies from an end-to-end ecosystems, bringing in revolutionary ideas, are infused by artificial intelligence, or, you know, what do you call the IoT, right?
Yep.
So Internet of Things. And how do you look at the omni-channel presence of the customer, right? Whether, you know, they have mobile applications, they're ending up using web and e-commerce solutions appropriately. How are they doing brand marketing, right? It's all about the brand, right?
It's always been about the brand. Yep.
It's always about the brand, right? And we now know today, if we have to buy anything for us, we just go to Amazon.com and purchase it. How many of us even take the liberties to go to Walmart nowadays?
It's very rare. The only place that I go that's associated with them is Sam's Club, and that's only because I like to buy food once a month, and I don't
Exactly.
have to go back again.
And what about places where we live, where there's no Sam's Club and we got Costco? So we go to
Yeah,
Costco.
same story. So
Yeah.
you go to Costco. Yeah, we got them both out here. They like to play their little competition game. Like one's literally about 2 miles away from the other, and I'm like, really, guys, this is what it's come to.
Mhm.
You're competing just down the street from each other. It's like the old it's like the old days when the two little stores would open up next to each other, both donut shops.
I know. Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Uh,
so basically, thought leadership, staff inspiration, trying to get mentor the team and the people, organizational growth,
mhm.
change management, being very transparent with the communication with teams, which is going to be a little challenging these days, right?
Yeah,
But you
it
have to
has
do it.
been. Yep.
If you were to be the right mentor, and the thing that you have to be, always talking the truth, right? And be able to articulate business value and optimize the processes along the way. And that's what I call value generation, and that's what I would like to continue building upon for my customers till I hang the hat.
There you go. Well, and I'm sure you got quite a few more years left in you. I know I do. Guys, we're going to take one more 30-second break. When we come back, we chat a little bit more about what Asmith is up to, what he's after, and what he, well, maybe how he can help you. So we'll be back in 30. Hey guys, back here, Coffee with Mike, sitting with Asmath Pasha, talking about, well, actually, we've been talking about a lot of things, innovation, leadership, things of that nature. And at this point, we like to kind of give the floor to our guests and let them talk about what's next. Where's he going now? What's his aspirations? Where's he plan on going? So, what's next for Asmith?
Oh, a great question. I've had a great journey, as we talked about in our first section.
Absolutely.
Coming up 26 years now, I've had a fairly good share of success in many of my roles. And most recently, I was with Wipro, Capgemini, and Paradigm, right? And it is a leadership in evolution by itself. And also along the way, I've been affiliated with Forbes Technology Council. I thank them heavily for giving me this platform, to reach out to several of our customers and all that stuff, and in networking. Then the Dev Network, the Innovative Executive League, the Positive Planet, and all that is just adding on to the thought leadership.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And the experience from these companies and the thought leadership. So what's next is basically I'm eyeing on more of that CTO advisory, right? Things, and I want to continue doing that, right? If you can call it consulting services, but I think from a technology affiliation standpoint, I've done it all. I could do cloud, and I could do data estate modernization and cloud. I could do data migration from on-prem to cloud systems. I could do advanced analytics, whether it is AI-driven self-service analytics infused by top-notch technologies like ThoughtSpot.
Mhm.
Also, recently I got a podcast out and a white paper on data mesh, right? So which is a
Okay.
new technology where you're
Yeah.
decentralizing
I've never
it.
heard of this before. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's new.
Something to read about, and it's
Absolutely.
interesting what's happening with our on the data side, where everything is getting decentralized towards the domain, and making more data as a productized thing for the businesses.
That's cool.
So all that is there. So I think I will continue on, and I will be the journey. I'm not sure a year from now what it will be like, but I'm excited. 2022 is going to be the year of the tiger, given where we were 2020, 2021, and 2022 is a lot of folks are looking at investing back in the businesses, and I definitely want to be out there and help businesses grow, several of our customers as well.
That's going to be that's a real interesting. You kind of had a thought in the middle of your speech there. But I think I will do this, and it's like it's interesting to watch someone talk through their process and see what happens as it goes, because like and it's happened before, even here. Somebody's there go, I never thought about it that way. or, I think this probably works better. It's nice to have stuff like that happen live. Oh, what are some of when you're talking about the things that you can do, what are some of the favorites that you like to deal with? Like when it comes to technology, who are some of the clients that are some of the, I guess, best success stories that you've had that you enjoyed?
So success stories, I had many, right?
Sure, yeah.
And for a right to be politically right, you also have to make sure failure is also a very important part of your journey.
It's always a part of it. Absolutely.
You fail, but you basically put all the lessons learned, take those battle scars and make it much more successful. Now, since you're asking me on the success part, why I was just touching on a little bit on the failure side is there were situations where things didn't go right for certain customers.
Sure.
For example, back in the days at Computer Science Corporation, we were trying hard to get and crack the nut with one large customer, which was Kaiser Permanente based out of California.
Oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
there.
And it was very hard to penetrate the account. And they tried for about 2 years, and they put me. I had a very good track record on the delivery side back in those days when I was doing more delivery management work.
Sure.
I'm talking about 2008, 2009 timeframe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they put me up, and I became the engagement partner for Kaiser. And within a month, I got a letter of engagement and a letter of intent as well to staff up the team with 11 resources in India and start doing work on replacing their, I believe they had the old Oracle systems to Microsoft, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of data movement with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For that, I got that. And that was like one of the true success engagements that I saw the value and me shining as a leader, after being at that time 11 years in the industry.
Nice. What do you think contributed to that? Do you think that was basic experience, or was it one of those deals where you made the right, well, obviously you had to make the right connection, but what drove that? What made that happen?
It is sharpening the spear, my friend. It's all about understanding what the customer pulse is. I think I have that innate capability that I can understand the customer immediately. I can piece a solution for them, right? And listening to them and understanding their use case, right? And I think that was the failure on our competition part. And that was an opportunity to seize. Competition had about 300, 400 resources working, whereas we had just a handful of people. And that was the moment to seize. And then you build that trusted relationship. Till today, I have good friends with the person who the customer at Kaiser, but he's no longer at Kaiser, but he's doing large.
You can't get away from those relationships. When you make that kind of connection, you're always with them. Right? That's just part of life, which is really cool, because now you have another resource, you have another connection. Doesn't matter where they go, you can always come back to them and go, hey man, I ran into this issue. Maybe you have some perspective on it.
And believe it or not, Michael, from Kaiser, about almost a dozen times over the last 11 years, people have been calling me to come and fix something or other for them. California. It's just that I cannot do it because it's far away from me.
Sure, but the mere fact that they still reach out to you, when you leave that kind of lasting impression, it's super valuable, as you can see. Something else triggered in my head. I'm trying to remember what I was going to ask you. It is what it is. Maybe it just wasn't that important. As you mentioned on the failures, successes and failures, you've had a lot of success. Mm-hmm. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now?
My biggest challenge is it's you're at a pedestal where it's hard to say no.
Yeah, I know that one.
And you get caught between a rock and a hard place where you have your team that truly believes in you, trusts you, they join, and they put their career aspirations on you, right?
Yeah.
Because you are a leader and you do that. And I've done, I think, based on all the reviews and the number of connections and everything I've built with the teams that I've worked with, I scored a A+ there.
Sweet.
Where the challenge comes is like, when the organization change happens, right?
Mm,
And being that buffer, okay?
yeah.
And not having the ability to say no or maybe to someone because you're so involved with the team and their collective growth. And I mean, results are always phenomenal.
Oh, sure.
I've taken organizations from basically being, Mayfair to a modern day Singapore. Okay.
Wow.
Right.
That's
So
huge.
I've done that. But that is the thing. I think it is the space that we are in. As leaders, we have to grow. And I always tell my team members is not to be afraid of failing, right? And because if you don't fail, or if you don't fail trying, you'll never know what the other side looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm still experimenting that after 25 years. And I'm thinking I'm getting better at it. But, you're at that pedestal where if you're as a thought leader and as being in all these board advisory and all that stuff is saying saying the things like, hey, I don't think this will work for you. I'd rather say, why don't we try it and see if we could do a quick POC on something else.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to deflect the fact and say a blunt no.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got it. It's not always the easiest, but you're right. Well, our time has, unfortunately, we're right there.
Mhm.
You've heard me say that before. And it's been an excellent experience sitting down with you, Asmith. I really appreciate you coming and hanging out, sharing your story, sharing your insights, your perspective, your inspirations. I'm sure somebody that heard this one today is going to be able to walk away going, that was cool. And that's really what I aim to do here. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you, Michael. You're welcome.
Awesome. Guys, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button down there. Make sure you hit that bell next to it. If you haven't subscribed, hit the bell. Because that tells you when our next awesome guest like Asmith gets to come on to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on any of the podcasts, make sure that you are subscribing or downloading. Do me a favor, leave us a review. Tell us what you think. Tell us who else we ought to interview. Tell us, if there's some other subject matter you want us to talk about. This is, after all, Java Chat. We get to hang out with cool people and chat about just about anything. So we really appreciate the fact that you guys make the time and take the time to come and listen. This is one of the longest signups I've ever heard of. I don't know why it takes so long to get through this. We really appreciate you guys doing that. Please make sure that you share this with someone as well. Send a link to somebody. Somebody out there in the technology world is going to hear this and go, that was cool. I got something out of it. Don't forget the links for his social, for the books that he talks about. They'll all be down there in the comments. And find him on LinkedIn. That's where we found him. Get in there, get networking. Do the things that are necessary to get you a network that can build you as well as your career. There's plenty of killer people out there, just like Asmith. And not everybody's going to be in your field. You're going to find some other people in other fields that also inspire you. So get out there, go get it done. Till next time, for myself, Coffee with Mike and Asmith Pasha. Ciao for now.
Thank you.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.